Welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South, episode 314, the Texans against the world. We're going to get into maybe why I named it that in a minute. I've got someone that knows the Texans in and out, especially been covering them. Well, since he's been covering them pretty much the entire year and then some. That would be DJ Bien-Aime. What's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing, man? How you doing, man? Can't wait to talk about the Texans. Let's see if they can make it to next week. You know what I mean?
That's right, man. Because if you look at everybody talking about them, they don't even think they can make it past three quarters.
Isn't that kind of crazy though? Because it's not like they're playing the Ravens or like the Lions or something. They're playing the Chargers, and I get it. The Chargers are pretty good. Whatever.
They're still the Chargers though.
Yeah, and like talking about them like they're a shoo-in to win a playoff game. It's kind of insane.
Yeah.
Like Rex Ryan saying that it's basically a bye week for the Chargers. What? You know what I mean? Like, come on now.
Yeah, we're going to get into it and more a little bit later. But, of course, I got the Get Off Your Chest segment. Well, first things I want to say is prayers out to everyone in Los Angeles going through everything that's going on. I mean, Palisades pretty much is gone. I mean, just want to send my prayers out to everyone in Los Angeles. Man, that's just a lot, man. It's I know you saw some of the pictures and stuff. I'm just like, good Lord, man.
Right.
But I wanted to at least offer up my prayers. I wish I had, financial ways to be able to help too. But, of course, I'm not in that position. But hey, I wish I could for all the things that are going on out there. But the Get Off Your Chest segment for this episode, since we're starting the playoffs, we got to talk about the team that is the defending two-time champs. That would be the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this season wasn't necessarily the most entertaining season of Kansas City Chief football. They weren't necessarily pretty offensively. Defensively, hey, they got it done for majority of the season. But, a lot of people do not believe they are going to win it a third time in a row. Now, that is very hard to do. In football, you really don't ever see it happen. Basketball, yes, you saw Michael Jordan do it twice. But to me, they are still the Kansas City Chiefs. They are still the champions. And to beat the champions, you have to actually beat the champions, which only one team, I don't even know if you want to count the last game, but only one team really beat them the entire year. That's the Buffalo Bills. Other than that, teams found ways to keep them in the game, and they made plays to win the game. So, while the Chiefs have not looked great the entire season, to me, they are still the Kansas City Chiefs. That's still Patrick Mahomes. That's still Chris Jones on defense, and that is still a two-time defending champion. So to beat the champ, you got to knock out the champ. You can't go to a full 12 rounds. You got to knock them out early. So, I mean, you got any thoughts on them, man, the Chiefs and how they played and just, knocking out the champs, man?
I mean, by the end of the season, man, their offense was actually playing much better. Like, obviously, they're much more of an efficient type offense, not necessarily a big play. But they can play that style and be effective because Mahomes' ability that if the initial couple of reads aren't there, he can create something out of nothing. And again, like the Chiefs, I remember I used to go on the radio and I would always say regarding the Texans when they had 3-game and 11-day stretch that the two most important games that matter is the Chiefs and the Ravens game. And I said I would prefer, if I had to choose which games they would win, it would be Miami and Kansas City. Because if you beat Kansas City, right, that is a indicator that you're a legitimate contender at that point, right? Because teams, for the most part, now there's some exceptions, right, where some bad teams are beating them. But most times, teams that do beat the Kansas City Chiefs are legitimate playoff threats, right? I remember last year, they lost to the Raiders. That happened. But they also lost to the Bills. They lost to the Packers. They lost to some teams that are really good that end up making some decent playoff runs. You know what I mean? So for me, when it comes to beating the Chiefs, like if you beat them, that shows that you're a legitimate AFC contender. And from if the Texans would have beat them that week, we would have been viewing them much different. Even if they got their doors blown off against the Ravens, we would have been viewing them much differently because they would have went into Arrowhead and they would have beat Chiefs. So I think the only two teams that have a shot is the Bills and the Ravens, and I think that's about it.
I hear you there. I hear you there. Well, speaking of the Houston Texans, I mean, going into this season, I legitimately was thinking, hey, this team is a Super Bowl contender with what they added, with how they had last year, things like that. High expectations. Now, to me, they didn't meet all the expectations that I thought they had. Maybe that was me thinking they were just way better than what they were, just putting the expectations way too high. Right. But they're 10-7, so it's not a terrible record. They're 10-7. They made the playoffs. Had some good play, had some plays that would just make you scratch your head. But here they are. They're facing the Chargers in the AFC Wildcard weekend. So what did you kind of make of the Houston Texans regular season this year?
I would say, man, inconsistent, right? I think defensively they're pretty good unit. They're top 10 unit defensively, but offensively, the injuries and the offensive line woes just kind of did them in. I think that the fact that they struggle blocking stunts consistently cost them a chance to do something special this year, right? Because I think that CJ ranked is second in the NFL in terms of unblocked pressures. So whenever teams do stunts, games, whatever it is, at the Texans offensive line, you had guys coming in free multiple times throughout the game. Good thing about 52 unblocked pressures, 52 divided by 17. If I could do the math off the top of my head, that's at least almost 3 unblocked pressures per game.
That's close over 3 a game, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, because I think 17 times 3 right there is what?
51.
And so that's literally 3 point something. So that's 3 a game that was guaranteed unblocked pressures. No quarterback can survive in that aspect. Obviously he was sacked a bunch of times, top 5 in terms of sacks. So that was an issue even when they had Stephon Diggs and had Tank Dell, right? Because they only had a few games when the offense was truly clicking. That was week 1, and it was a little choppy in the pass game, but they still put up 29 points. But week 2 against the Chicago Bears, they only put up 19. Against the Vikings, they only put up 7, right? Because Jaguars, it took them to like the last play to finally, get over 20 points. That's when they scored. That's when see it through the game when touched on the Dare Uwagwe. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but that's neither here nor there. But so even with the games when they had Tank, Nico, Diggs, even though that Dragon they didn't have Tank and Nico, I mean they didn't have Tank for that one, but still, like even when they had their 2 duos of Diggs and Tank, still wasn't, and Nico wasn't good enough. So I think a lot of it just stems from the inability to block up front consistently. I also think teams had a better idea on how to slow down Bobby Slowick's offense. That was a massive factor that can't be understated. Teams had a much better grip on how to defend that offense, flood the middle of the field, which is why they saw CJ, I think, was 2nd or 3rd in terms of dropbacks against split safety looks. So teams were just flooding the middle. And that's why, this week is going to be interesting because the Chargers this year, in terms of split safety looks, I believe they have the 3rd most dropbacks in terms of throwing split safety looks against opposing quarterbacks. So, and then their whole quarterbacks have pass rate of 82, completion percentage of 64.9. Because what they do really well, from what I studied, was when teams motion, because teams love the motion now, they motion to get an idea of what coverage you could possibly be in. But the Chargers do a good job of holding the split safety look to where you really don't know. It can go from a split safety look to single high, from a single high to split. You really don't know, right? So, and that's why teams, their motion to try to get an idea, but they don't really show too much. So I'm curious to see how the how the Texans approach this game plan. Big thing they got to do is run the rock. They're bottom 3rd, ironically, in running the ball, even though they have, in terms of carries, even though they have a Pro Bowl running back. So, I'm not saying the formula is there, but the formula should start with you got to run the rock and rely on a quick passing game to try to get them out of that shell safety look, so then you can start taking shots over the top.
Right. So are there any updates on any injuries? I know Shaq Mason is out this game. Christian Harris, Wilson Jr., Nico Autry dealing with a few nicks and bruises. I think they practiced in full last practice. Any kind of indications whether they may or may not play so far?
Yeah, I think Mechie will play. I think Christian Harris will play. The Nico is a toss-up because he didn't practice much. And Teagan, the tight end, he'll play because he just got activated off the IR, but designated to return. So usually when they do that, you're going to play that week.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see Christian Harris playing because, last year it's almost like he took that leap. And then this year he was injured for most of the year. So it'll be interesting just to see what he does. And he actually turned up in the playoffs. So I remember that. And he played well. But I do have to ask you one other question. And this is about just the belief or the talk about them. Like you started talking about it just a little bit. But the belief in the organization that they can actually do some things in the playoffs. Now, a lot of people that are looking at the Texans, looking how they finished, looking at a few games they played this year, don't have the belief that they can win. I mean, it's a lot of people that don't believe they can win this game. I actually ran a poll in one of my channels on IG. Yeah, only 2 people believe they could win.
Right.
I was like, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, that's what do you make of that? And what do they make of that? Is it them against the world mentality is kind of taking over that locker room? Are they seeing these things?
So like they hear a little bit of the noise, but I don't think it's gonna. They're not like using it as quote unquote motivation because a lot of it isn't from the Chargers end. I think the Chargers have kind of been diplomatic. I think that they have been a little annoyed about the dismissal, but they do believe they can make any type of run in the playoffs. I believe mainly because most teams, I think, once they're in, since football is a single elimination tournament, they can win. All they need is a couple of things to go right. Because the NFL, a lot of it comes down to it's kind of like 5 few plays. I know you remember seeing Micah Parsons talk about the score against Philly where he was like, man, these 5 plays kind of determined the game, right? They still got blown out, but he's not like that wrong because like in football, especially in the NFL, like a lot of it comes down to a few plays, right? Like when the Texans played the Chiefs, if Tank doesn't get hurt on a touchdown, that game looks a lot different. You know what I mean? Or if the Texans, when they go down to the 5-yard line, they punch it in, now the score is much different. I mean, the vibe of that game is much different. Now it's 10-9 instead of 10-2 because then the Ravens went down, they scored, and then that was kind of, it kind of got out of hand. So if they convert on 4th down, that's a different ball game, because football is such a – I don't want to use the word momentum because people trying to say momentum ain't real. But football is very much a field game where you got to feel how the day is going, how the night's going, things of that nature. So I think that the Texans believe they can make a run, right? The only team that I would say, like, they're probably like, we have to be on our A game and beat them is Baltimore. Like our A+ game. They're going to play a perfect game because, like, Baltimore has kind of beat their heads in so many times, even pre-CJ, that guys that have kind of lasted over a couple of years are probably like, yeah, now Baltimore is a different beast. Because think about it. Every time they played Baltimore, they've gotten blown out, right? The first time they played Baltimore last year, it was 25-9. Playoff game 34-10. Christmas 31-2. They're not stupid. They've seen that, right? So, like, they know Baltimore kind of got their number. Everybody else, they feel like they can play with.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to dig a little bit more into the Chargers versus the Texans, starting with the Chargers defense versus Texans offense. We're going to do that more after this commercial break on Touring the AFC South.
EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash are two of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help
promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, you can get 10% off on these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get these EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash. All right, and we're back on Touring the AFC South, episode 314 with DJ Bien-Aime. And like I mentioned before the break, Chargers defense versus Texans offense. Now, the Chargers defense, they have some players over there. They have Khalil Mack. They have Joey Bosa. They have Derwin James. Boy, oh boy. It's going to be fun to see them lining up against this Houston offense. Now, I will say the Houston offense isn't necessarily full strength. Of course, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs not there. But still, they're very formidable offense with Dalton Schultz. You got Nico Collins, you got Joe Mixon, of course, you got CJ Stroud. So, in this game, you mentioned it earlier, the run game. Is that the one thing the Texans have to do well to kind of get it going offensively against this defense?
Absolutely. I think I'm a big proponent that if you want to win in December and January, you have to run the ball. Like, and I ain't talking about that cute crap outside zone jibber jabber. You got to be able to get downhill. Now you can have outside zone as an off pitch for sure, but I do believe that you have to, for the most part, be able to get downhill because the teams that win and win big usually can run the ball effectively. And it's not like the Chargers' run defense is stout. They're 14th in the NFL in rushing yards allowed per game at 117. You know what I'm saying? Like the Texans can have some success in that department, but they gotta commit to it. That's one of the issues is throughout the year, they didn't necessarily commit to it the way that I think that they should have, right? Because this year they ranked 22nd in NFL in rushing attempts per game, which was 25. When they averaged 25 per game. When you look at the teams that are towards the top in terms of running the ball, first, the team that's number one, Philadelphia, 36 per game. Baltimore, 32 per game. Detroit, 31 per game. Pittsburgh, 31. Green Bay, 30. Washington, 30. Indianapolis, they're not that good, but they went 8-9 with arguably a bottom three quarterback out of all the starters that started on week one, if I'm just being honest. Buffalo's 9th, right? Tampa is 10th, right? LA Chargers 11th, right? Denver 13th. Minnesota 14th. Like, I just named you a bunch of teams that are in the top, that are in the playoffs right now. Obviously, the Chiefs, they're 16th. It's a little different for them because they have Patrick Mahomes. But most teams don't have Patrick Mahomes. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to be able to run the rock, right? I mean, look, the Ravens got Lamar Jackson, who might win MVP. Buffalo got Josh Allen, another guy that might win MVP. And they're both running the ball roughly, Baltimore's at 32. The Buffalo Bills are close to 30. So I'm big on, like, you got to run the rock because when you get to control the tempo of the game, the flow of the game, you get to control, you get to all your play action pass stuff is effective because now the defense has the linebackers, the safety, they have to respect it because you're trying to, you're committed to it. And that opens up lanes for your quarterback to be able to throw into windows and be able to create explosives.
Exactly. Yeah, the running game definitely is essential for the playoffs for sure. And like you mentioned, between the tackles, not outside the tackles.
Yeah. Like outside the zone is fine. It's fine. But that can't be your staple. Nah, it can't be your staple because, I was actually talking to a Texas player about this. We both agreed, like, when it's outside and the weather's not that great, right? The outside zone, if you're a pure speedster and it's super cold, now you might lose a step or two, right? And the bigger guys, they might not lose. They don't lose that step or two either. Now that speed gap has shrunk a little bit. And now when you're trying to get to that edge, you don't get that same burst to get there, and now it's not as effective, and you have to worry about negative plays. Negative plays I feel like are more likely with outside zone, because what if the DN outside linebacker blows it up or is able to hold it long and able to keep contained, and you're trying to press it outside, you miss the cutback lane, you try to get outside, and then you got the linebacker scrape over the top, and then boom, he gets in the backfield. Or if your outside tackle doesn't set a really good block, or the tight end doesn't set a really good block, and you can set the edge so great, and then the running back decides to bounce it out too much, and then the tight end or the alpha or the tackle, they hold you just a little bit, and now you get a flag. Now it's a 10-yard penalty. Now first and 20 or second and 20. You know what I'm saying? So me, I'm way more of a north and south guy. Like I don't mind outside zone. I'm not saying don't do that, but inside zone, duo, power, traps, wham. Let's play man football, man. Hat on a hat. You pick a man, and let's operate that aspect of counters, all that outside zone stuff. That stuff is cute, but let's get north and south, man.
I hear you there. Now, the Houston Texans, like I mentioned, they're missing two key players in Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. But what's one player on the Houston Texans team that no one's really talking about that could potentially have a game in this game?
That could have a game in this game no one's talking about?
I mean, honestly, a guy I'm looking at is Mechie. Mechie could potentially have one to me.
Yeah. Mechie, but that's what I'm saying. I feel like most people would say that. I feel like it probably has to be Dalton Schultz. Like Dalton Schultz has to return from wherever he's been majority of the season from a pass catching standpoint. But he has the talent, he has the ability. I think if he can, make some things happen, he'd be the guy. You know what I'm saying? That I feel like could do just enough to give the Texans a chance to. I can't believe we're saying this, but pull off the upset. You know what I'm saying? I can't believe we're saying that. They're a home team, and we're talking about pulling off the upset. But yeah, so
that had to feel strange saying that, right?
I know, right? That had to. It had to. But I think if the Texans can get north and south, they'll be pretty effective. I mean, that'd be pretty effective, in my opinion. I mean, I'm just looking at some numbers right now. The Texans were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So they're like 20. They're like 21st. The math is right in yards, rushing yards on the interior, which is just crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? Even though they were actually decent at it, like they averaged 4.5 yards per carry. So you would think that they would, do that a little bit more, since a lot of their bigger runs they were able to pop that. But I think overall in terms of just carries, they were bottom 6. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They were the 6th fewest. But San Francisco was 5th fewest. They're a heavy outside zone team. It's not like it can't work. It does. If you have Christian McCaffrey, obviously, and Kyle Shanahan dialing up Miami. They did that obviously on the Atlanta Falcons. They're heavy outside zone too. But man, get north and south, man. Get north and south. Green Bay's from that same tree, and they were second most inside zone running. You know what I'm saying? The Rams from that tree too, 4th most. I think, I think, man, you gotta, because I feel like when you get north and south now, you're forcing linebackers to have to get off blocks and then make tackles. Where if it's outside zone, there's more physicality when it's north and south. It's outside zone. I feel like, yeah, obviously you'll engage with some of the linebackers, but with the offense, but it's more at an angle. You know what I'm saying? So you're not even taking on that brute force. Where if you get in north and south and you can get a linebacker, you can get an offensive lineman downhill, going straight at somebody, and they can make contact. Now that's a collision that the linebackers got to take on, and then try to get off, and then maybe they can tackle. But doing that for an entire game, man, that ain't that easy.
No, it isn't. Not at all. But of course, I can't not talk about the Texans offense and not talk about CJ Stroud. Now, CJ Stroud last year, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 4,108 yards.
Right.
This year, 3,727, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Some of that you can say the offensive line. Some of that I don't maybe miscommunication between him and the receiver. Other times, I'm still trying to figure out what was going on or what he was seeing. So in this game, what do you expect from CJ Stroud versus the Chargers?
I expect them to be solid. I expect them to be solid. I think that this would be a game where CJ throws it no more than 32 times. I feel like if you can get the run game going, if you can get like 25, maybe 30 carries total, not just Joe Mixon, I feel like they'll be in a good spot. But I feel like if you get into a happy drop back pass game, it won't go that well. Not because CJ can't play, but because you're playing into the Chargers' hands. They want you to drop back and throw it all day long, right? Because CJ isn't necessarily at the point yet where we can be like, all right, we're gonna ask you to have 45 pass attempts. We need you to also create explosive plays, but also be methodical and use short passing plays as an extension of the run because the run game ain't working. He's not there yet. And that's okay. He's only 23 years old. You know what I'm saying? So he's still learning. And I think he will get to that point. But I think make it easier on him and run that rock.
I hear you there. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we got to talk about this Houston defense versus the Chargers offense. Justin Herbert, he had a great year protecting the football, but can he do that against this Texans defense? We'll get into that more right after this commercial break on Touring the AFC South. A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business. All right, we are back on Touring the AFC South. Like I mentioned before the break, we got to talk about the Houston defense and, of course, the Chargers offense. Now, Justin Herbert, that's, to me, a guy that has had a great year protecting the football, 23 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, just magnificent at that. But you got to get to him, you got to disrupt him. And there's one guy that the Houston Texans brought in this offseason to be that guy. That's Danielle Hunter. The vet was brought in for these type of moments. So what do you expect from him in this game versus this Chargers offensive line?
Well, what I expect from Danielle Hunter is he has to make an impact on the game. I felt like the last 2 weeks, the last 2 games that like mattered, Chiefs and Ravens, I feel like Danielle and Will didn't make the imprint that they needed to make. Now, granted, some of them were the Chiefs game, they went heavy, quick passing game. The Ravens, Lamar was able to make plays. But you're paying Danielle Hunter almost $30 million. You know what I'm saying? Like they're paying him a pretty penny. And there were some plays against the Ravens where Lamar did Lamar stuff, but you're supposed to be Danielle Hunter. You got to make some Danielle Hunter plays too, So I think that he needs to have a big game, him and Will. But I honestly think, man, this game really, because they want to run the rock too, the Chargers that is, and they're going to commit to it. It's really going to come down to can the interior defensive tackles like Foley Fatukasi, Mario Edwards, Tim Settle, and the Nico Autry, if the Nico plays, can they make an impact on the game? Can they make an impact on the game to force the Texans and force the Chargers in third and longs and third and uncomfortable situations? Because I think that if they allow them to get comfortable and throw the rock, it could be it'll be a long day.
I hear you there. Now, one guy that can make it for a long day for a lot of teams, that'd be cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. Now, I will say this before the season. I did say L'Jarius Sneed was the best corner in this division. That was just based off of last season. But I didn't say that Derek Stingley Jr. wasn't there.
You said L'Jarius Sneed was the best. You said that?
Yeah, I did. I said he was the best corner in the division.
You think he was better than Stingley coming into this season?
just based off of his performance last year, I would say he was. But Stingley surpassed him and then some this year. That is not even a question. He had an incredible season. And of course, I did see the press conference where they asked D'Amico Ryans, was he going to follow around Ladd McConkey during this game? So I ask you, do you think that he's going to follow Ladd McConkey around, or do he's kind of be a mixture of different things during this game?
He's not gonna follow him. Cause Ladd, can be in the slot at times, and that can get things a little wonky and stuff. I think that, like, I'll say this, and I want to be respectful. Cause Ladd is pretty good, right? Like, I'm not gonna act like he not. He's a good player, right? Mm-hmm. I think that they reserve that, for. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at right now, 70% of his routes are in the slot. I think you'll see more Kamari, because Kamari has gone in the slot. You'll see more Kamari, I think, on Ladd than you'll see Stingley. I feel like the following is more reserved for, like, true game changers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would say that, and I'm not saying Ladd can't become that. I think Ladd is a pretty good player, but if you look at who they've done it against, truly following Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, DJ Moore, they did leave him isolated against Garrett, Devontae Adams, and Mike Williams, but that was because, like, you can't have Stingley following everybody at that point. The Jets had a variety of guys, and there's somebody else that I'm forgetting, but that's not here or there. I believe that he's more likely to follow Quentin Johnston, mainly because Quentin Johnston is a vertical threat, and because against the Lions, Stingley didn't follow Amon St. Brown. He didn't fully follow J-Mo, but he followed J-Mo a decent amount because of his vertical presence. So I could see that more than I could see the alternative of Stingley following Ladd.
Got you. Okay. And then, of course, in this game, Jalen Petrie, I believe, he's done for the year. So, and I like Jalen Petrie too, man. I was hurt when that happened, man, because I definitely, man. But who do you think kind of steps up, maybe in that secondary at the safety position? Do you think Bullock continues to step up, or do you think somebody else steps up back there?
Yeah, they're gonna just need the safeties to not give up too many explosives. I think it's more than anything. I feel like, in this system, like, it's kind of plug and play at the safety spot. Just do your job. Don't do anything too stupid. Don't try to do too much, and you'll be fine. The system isn't necessarily built for, like, safeties to make a bunch of plays. It's more built for, like, the corners to make more plays. It's especially the way this. I'm saying that as if Bullock doesn't have 5 interceptions. So let me not say that. I would sound ignorant. I would say that the guys that are built to make plays are the guys that usually, like, deeper down the field for the most part. So, like, Stingley, Bullock, and Kamari. So I would say, the other safeties, whether it's Miles Bryant or Eric Murray, they just got to do their job and not try to do too much. I think that's what it's really going to come down to. Like, they just can't do too much and just do their job, and I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I got to commend the Houston Texans as well. Got 2 future starters in this past draft in the secondary as well.
Yeah.
So, well, now I'm not saying future for Bullock, not for Kamari Lassiter, because I knew once Kamari Lassiter got there and Jeff Okudah and I can't remember the other guy who was from I think it's
CJ Henderson.
CJ Henderson. Yeah, I knew when Kamari Lassiter got there and those 2 were there that he was definitely going to be the starter. I just knew it off top.
Right.
But yeah, so I got to commend them for that. But yeah, we've reached the end of the show. But we also have a game like we do with every show. It's 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice. And I will say, I am looking forward to this Chargers and Texans game, and just to see what kind of schematics and things like that, and what advantage one takes over the other. But let's start off with the first question of the game. We got 2 vacation spots. We got Cancun or Cabo in Mexico. Which one or would you rather go to?
Oh man, that's tough. I'll say Cabo. I feel like Cancun. Everybody be at Cancun. Cabo feel, less people will be there.
Yeah, be on the West Coast, man. Less people out there.
Yep.
I got two actors. One is a veteran, and one is still, putting out. He's in his prime, I should say. Denzel Washington or Michael B. Jordan. Which actor are you taking?
Denzel, easy. Denzel. Yeah, no.
Got you. Okay. All right. Next one. Which team is more dangerous to Kansas City, the Ravens or the Bills? Obviously, that's not saying the Texans. That's not saying the Texans can't be dangerous.
I feel like it's the Ravens because the Bills defensively have too many holes. Can't necessarily. They're not like teams have been able to put up points on the Bills. People don't realize that because like they're kind of depleted defensively. I think they'll be okay defensively, but I feel like against the Chiefs, you kind of need some difference makers on defense, and I feel like the Ravens have just a little bit more, and they have a dominant running back, right? So they can turn it around and hand it off a million times and be able to be effective that way.
Yeah, bully ball at its finest.
Right.
Now I'm gonna jump over to Marvel, man. Do a little Marvel comics. You got Thanos or Kang, man. Which villain you like the most?
Thanos is one of the best. He one of the best villains ever. He right there with some of my anime favorite villains like Frieza, Boo, things look like those type of guys. Not Frieza. Boo was just destructive. Frieza was at least had some personality. Cell was just nasty. Cell was just a nasty cat, man. It was nasty. Ain't have no shame.
All right, last one. I'm going to go to some great Black women that are actresses. Viola Davis or Angela Bassett. Which actress are you taking?
Well, I don't know who either of you are. To be honest, I might be a movie guy. So if you talk about actors, I don't be really know who's who. I know Denzel and Michael B. Jordan, but those two you just named, I'm sure I've seen them in movies and shows and whatever. But let me see. Tell me the first name again.
Viola Davis. She was in Fences. She was in the DC movie Suicide Squad. She was in both of those, playing the black woman that was the boss in that. She's been in a lot of movies. And of course Angela Bassett's in 911. She played Tina Turner in What's Love Got to Do with It. She played Stella, How Stella Got Her Groove Back, was the lead person in that.
Oh, okay. Now, I know Angela Bass. I've seen her playing and stuff. All right, who's the other person again?
Viola Davis.
Viola.
She played opposite of Denzel in Fences. She played his wife in Fences. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You're right. Yeah, Viola. Yeah. I know what that is. I'll probably go Bass.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, you're off the hot seat, man. 5 choices, 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice, man. Again, thank you again for giving us your great knowledge of the Houston Texans as they take on the Los Angeles Chargers this weekend in Houston. Like I mentioned, episode 314, the Texans against the world. And since a lot of people do not expect them to win, or not having them picked to win, I should say, despite them having a pretty good regular season and the Chargers still being the Chargers in the postseason. Now, DJ, if you can, let everyone know where they can find you on social media or any other stories you got dropped pretty recently.
You can find me on, at DJ Bien-Aime at ESPN, DJ Bien-Aime on Twitter, and then DJ Bien-Aime at ESPN or the Texas blog, and you'll see a lot of my work there.
Yes, sir. Thank you again. And of course, I'm Mike Patton, host of Touring the AFC South. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at MikePatton82. That's MikePatton 82 on the artist formerly known as Twitter, word to Prince. You can also find me on Instagram and Threads at that's THA and THE _general_MP. Touring the AFC South, you can find on all listening platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it, we are there. And also you can find Touring the AFC South on YouTube at the Mike Patton Podcast Network. Episode 314, we're done. Check out Texans versus Chargers this weekend. Guaranteed to be a good one. We're out. Peace.